Position to the bottom right, it's the Startail Protoss. He finds himself in a third game as he lost on Daybreak, and his idea is
Startail Squatter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And to the top left, Samsung Khan opponent. Starting in the blue is the Zerg player called
Samsung Khan Ro8.
I was trying to find a Harry Potter character that he would like, but actually I can't.
There is none.
No. I was like, Ron? No.
Nah, wrong hair color.
Not the right hair color. Neville? No.
Maybe,
not
but
really.
not really.
The teeth? No. Not the teeth. The teeth are too different.
Well, the scouting now going on, of course, for Squirtle. He wants to know if there's an early pool. There's none. Standard build so far from Ro8. And what is Squirtle going to do? On this map, we've seen so many different strategies from Protoss actually against Zerg.
Well, this map is so old and so, I mean, you're right, there's so many different strategies you can use here.
The funny thing is that this is also one of the things that's going to be difficult, more difficult for Ro8 than for Squirtle, because Squirtle played on this map a lot,
yes,
whereas Ro8 probably didn't. I mean, he probably faced opponents on this map a couple of times, but if you just think about the experience that Squirtle has to have on this map from games that he played in the past.
Well, ladder alone, man, he's been laddering a lot longer than Ro8. This map has been on the ladder for so long.
Yeah. And the thing is that on this map for a Zerg player, the third is a problem.
Yes.
This is where, as a Protoss player, starts to attack, and especially a two-base timing attack can be very strong here.
Exactly. You know, the third base that you can take that's kind of the natural of the parallel base is going to be very difficult to hold because it's so far away. Then if you take the third base and the choke point, you'll have the concave on the inside, but when the Protoss army fights you there, if he pulls back, then you fight into his concave. It's very difficult to micro that as a Zerg player.
And this is one of the maps that Protoss loves.
Yes.
Or loved in the past, just because it's so easy to actually wall off. So you can play a little bit greedy here. The wall and just the expansion itself, this is something that every single Protoss player did. This is actually one of the maps where the Forge first expand started, because it was just so easy to wall off in comparison to other maps.
Yeah, it's easy to wall off. It's got the secondary ramp of the natural, which was very uncommon at the time this map was introduced. We're talking about a time where Scrap Station was on the map pool. That was a long time ago.
Good old times.
Yeah, good times, man. I'll never forget. These Lings are really trying to poke here, but there's no answer. There's no way in. He's going to cancel the pylon if he wants to keep his wall open, and he does.
Man, you mentioning Scrap Station, I will never forget the game. I actually played against a Terran on Scrap Station once, and because he had this huge ramp at the beginning, I decided to play an early pool against him and run with my drones and everything in his main base, and they're like, awesome, everything works, so I run in there, and suddenly he lifts his command center
Takes the island.
and flies to the island, and I'm like, oh, I forgot something. I completely forgot that was the island, and I'm like, oh my god. So I had to run with my drones back and start a macro game, and I'm like, no.
I remember when I was playing in the beta, I was still a little bit unfamiliar with Protoss. It was right after I switched to Protoss. I played a game against a Terran where I did a DT drop against him and won. And I had two base. We went to the island, and I was like, well, and I took a third, and I was just like, well, I'm just going to make Void Rays. I'm going to mass up Void Rays and kill him. And then I found out that Stim Marines are pretty good against Void Rays, and I ended up losing the game. And I remember it was a long time ago.
Talking about Void Rays, Squirtle decided to go for the Stargate build again. We currently have him with the Stargate at the bottom right in his main base, as far away from potential overlords as humanly possible. And Ro8 is taking the third that you would expect on this map. He is taking the third to the bottom left. And now spreading creep, of course, very, very important here. But a Stargate is also a great decision to go for on this map. And the reason is just what we talked about earlier, the distance between the natural and the third base. It's so difficult to actually get queens over there in order to defend. So helping out against Void Rays is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And something that we've also seen in the past is actually builds where you lead up with Phoenixes and then start with a War Prism attack to Phoenixes to clear the Overlords. I don't think that's what we're going to see here, but it's definitely a possibility.
He's going to go with Void Ray first here.
Yep.
And the timing there just slightly missed, as Legend highlighted unintentionally. But, I mean, now Ro8 is going to see this with the Overlord, and this is something that Squirrel's already just going to show to him, try to force things out. And on this map in the past, we saw players like TSL, Guinea Pig, go double Stargate to attack the third base because it's starting to spread creep over there. But with the new style of Zerg, they make extra queens. Really easy to get those spores up in time and hold the third base. So we're going to see something very different.
He doesn't know it. Okay, he saw. Just in the last second.
Yeah, that was...
He saw the Chrono Boost, but at first he wasn't really aware of what exactly was Chrono Boosted. And once again, Ro8 is heavily supply blocked here after the Overlord is
He
lost.
only starts one, which actually is going to put him like barely enough, and then he's just going to lose another Overlord over here anyways, so...
There's number 2 and number 3.
Okay.
But yeah, still, he's losing another Overlord right now, so... And he's starting a 4th now, okay, so this time he's... yeah, he's doing this a little bit better, but still, a lot of minerals now banked up for him. He had to use a lot of minerals for the Overlords as well, so... Yeah,
he's playing this a lot better than last game though so far, and you know the robotics is on the way for Squirtle. He really wants to force out the layer tech to be either the Infestors or of course the Hydralisk, but I don't think Ro8 is going to go for either. I think he's just going to stick with his Roach composition here, make sure he has enough spores, and Squirtle is just going to have to use that robotics to hold his third.
we have the Spore Crawlers, of course, now ready, and this is the one thing. Also, the Creep Spread. Look how he connected those two bases. I was just about to compliment him for building the Spore Crawlers to make sure that his base is not, the third base is not under pressure with air units, but at the same time also the Creep Spread to make sure the Queens can walk over.
And this is a great position for the Void Rays to attack. It's easy for him to get in and get out with it, and the Queens are going to be a little bit vulnerable if they try to come off creep and fight there. Because as you mentioned, the natural and the third are connected, but the main still has a lot of space where there's no creep.
And that can be really dangerous. And it's so funny if you say, nice pickoff here.
Yeah, really nicely done. Loses the charge on the Void Ray, but that's okay. Gets another Roach.
And we have the Twilight Council follow-up for Squirtle now, who takes a third base. He really wants to have the macro game here.
Yes, he does. And as soon as that Twilight Council is done, he's going to start +2. And oh, a miss warp in here, so the Lings get into the main.
Yeah, pulling a mana, and this is definitely going to be a problem for him. He's going to lose a lot here, and also, of course, time, because he has to walk back with the rest of his units.
And yeah, I mean, he's losing the time. He's not going to lose much else, but this is very annoying. And now the Roach is coming to the third. He's not going to be able to kill the Nexus most likely, but he will kill the cannon, and he's going to damage it quite heavily. And actually, he's not sending his units over.
No, he's not, and this is going to be a huge problem for him. He's going to lose this Nexus, and this is very great. This is actually positional. It's a dream for Ro8. He has Lings in his opponent's main base. He's taking down the Nexus. I don't think he's able to save it.
He's not going to be able to save it. If he actually continues to target, he will get it.
Yeah, the Nexus is going to die.
Wow, and this is great for Ro8. He's even got more Roaches here, so he can deny the Nexus even further.
59 Harvesters against 51, so Ro8, even though on 3 bases, does not really have this huge economy that you would think about. Really a low eco game for him at this point, but he still is saturating 3 bases, and he's trying to pressure through. This might be actually overdoing it a little bit.
Well, if he gets the Forge, I think it'll be worth it for him, but right now he's being denied. Squirtle actually, with the cannons here and good force fields, is actually trading quite cost efficiently.
There is too much. He needs to be really careful. I think he's overcommitting quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think you're right, but he does turn around. And at this point, he's still denied Squirtle's third, and he didn't lose too many Roaches. If he stuck around a little bit longer, that could have been terrible for him, but right now, he is, even though losing more resources than his opponent, 50 supply up, the Infestation Pit has been started.
And this is the most important thing about what he did so far. He needs to have a transition into the late game, because at this point, this is Shakura's plateau. You can't attack into a 2-base Protoss. This is basically just committing suicide. So he needs to make sure that he is able to transition into a late game, and this is exactly what he does. He has 3 bases. He can safely even take a 4th if he wants to, because he is just the dominating force on the dominant force on the map at this point.
Yeah, he really is, man. And Squirtle forced to make additional cannons. I think he's adding 2 gates. I think he's just going to try to hit a timing off 2 base with Colossi, but with the amount of Roaches on the map, this is not going to be easy.
But the problem is we have nothing that really deals with Colossi for Ro8, so he doesn't have a Spire right now. He can't just try to overwhelm his opponent, but with good force fields and good positioning, Squirtle can do so much damage. He has 1 Colossi already. He's going for the extended thermal lance, and Ro8, I don't know, he needs something against Colossi, and right now he doesn't have anything.
Yeah, I think he's just going to try to fight with his pure Roach numbers, because there's not much else he can do without that Spire tech, as you mentioned.
There's the Spire. He goes for the Spire a little bit late, but if Squirtle decides to move out, Ro8 has to use flanks and run-bys in order to force Squirtle back and to just crush him from different angles at the same time to make sure that those Colossi are exposed and are not really shielded by force fields and the Gateway Army.
Yeah. The Phoenixes, I like, are continuing to follow this army around, which gives them total vision and awareness of where the Roaches are at any given point in time.
The 4th base now being built for Ro8 as expected. Bottom left, building another hatch. And we have +3.
I think Squirtle's going to hit with +3, and I don't think he's going to make any more Colossi. He's just going to make Stalkers. 4 more are actually being added as I speak. 5. He's going to go with 2 Colossi with range, as many Stalkers as he can afford. And that's going to be for the Corruptors his opponent is desperately trying to make to hold this off. The Spire not quite done for Ro8. He's making some Spines to help hold.
At this point, really important for Squirtle that he has a defense back home. He needs to leave a sentry and he have the opportunity to warp in a few others, because if Ro8 is actually just walking past his army, moving in, and then killing the wall and moving in with every single roach, this is going to be a problem. He's losing an Infestor
2
here.
Infestors, man. This is going to allow Squirtle a huge, you know, it gives him a little bit more of a gap to work with.
Yeah, Squirtle's on the map and he's like, oh cool, donations, awesome.
Yeah. And +3 is about to finish. He's going to hit this timing with all of his Stalkers. He actually did queue up the 3rd Colossus, so it looks like he's going to go with 3. And right now, Ro8 is actually, this is not the right choice to try to fight right here. And the Void Ray is really pressuring him. Just having this one Void Ray on the map is so annoying. He's going to pick off this Overseer as well. Ro8 needs to get himself together here for a second, because if he doesn't, Squirtle's just going to kill him.
Squirtle is now everywhere on the map. He denied the scout with the Overseer. He killed 2 of the Infestors, which was really important. Picks off a couple of additional units. And even though he's still behind in supply with the 3rd that's now coming up for him, he's in a decent position here. We have units positioned at the top right for Ro8. He wants to know when there's another base being built for the Protoss. But the StarTale player now with decent army supply is actually looking at 120 against 130 supply. And with the unit composition that we have, this is a pretty difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah, this is starting to look rough. He's just using this Void Ray very positionally the entire game, making the roaches go back and forth. He's targeting down this hatchery now. He's not going to be able to kill it very likely, but he's going to damage it quite significantly. Queen can transfuse, of course.
Yeah, and actually the Void Ray could have taken down the Queen with the charged up beam, but no, doesn't really see it. He's going to lose the Void Ray.
Yeah, he's going to lose it. He's just wanted to damage that hatch, I suppose, but definitely should have saved that there. Squirtle still has this presence on the map, and rather than going for the actual timing, he's taken a 3rd base, which compositionally limits him a little bit, because now he doesn't have the Fleet Beacon tech, and his opponent's Hive is done. But he's going for the attack now. He needs to get some lifts on the Infestors. Beautiful double lift here.
Wow, really, really well done. And those, oh man, those Colossi do so much damage here. Here come the Corruptors though. He needs to target them down. The Fungals are good, but Ro8 is losing supply. He's dropping fast, and Squirtle still has all of those Colossi.
He still even has the Phoenixes, you know? That's going to add some extra damage into the Corruptors. A lot of hesitation here from Ro8. He can't afford to wait. He's waiting for 42 more Lings, but 42 more Lings is not going to do anything against the Colossi.
Exactly, the Colossi is just melting them away, especially with the +3 attack upgrade. And once again, Corruption being used, and here come the Corruptors. But Squirtle with good target firing so far.
Maybe he can hold this with more roaches coming out, but the upgrades are just so good for Squirtle. The Colossi are now good. He's fighting, are now gone, excuse me. He's fighting on creep here, and more roaches stream through. This is still very close. The Spine Crawler's starting to fall. The Corruptor's dead weight at this point with no more Colossi.
Squirtle has still 31 Stalkers, and they have +3 attack, and they have Blink, and he's putting it to good use with 120 supply against 113. He's looking at a strong army. He's moving into the natural of his opponent, and as soon as he controls the choke points, he is golden here.
Yeah, the drone drill is good, but I mean, I just don't think it's going to be enough. Ro8 dropping in supply insanely quickly here. 20 more Lings on the way are not going to be enough. The Queens on both sides about to fall here, and I think Squirtle has done it. He will close things out. Great attack here off of 3 bases, getting that +3. GG!
GG